the book of Mark. And in case you guys didn't know, today is actually the first day of Advent, which means it is the first day of the new liturgical year. So, Happy New Year, everybody! Church is kind of off on that. It's not January, but this is our first day of the new church year. So, yay! This year is year B, and in year B we study the book of Mark. Of the four Gospels, Mark is the one who is a little bit dramatic. And he makes us kind of go, whoa. Especially in what we just read and we heard. In today's Gospel lesson, Jesus is responding to a question that Peter, Paul, and Andrew had asked. So before this passage, they were in the temple. Jesus was talking to the priests and the pastors and the bishops. And as they were leaving, one of the disciples commented on how beautiful the temple was. Because not very many people could go in the temple back in that day. The temple was a very sacred place. It was viewed as not only the church, but government and also God's house. So only certain people go into God's house. So after this comment was made, Jesus says, in a lack of a better term, well, it's going to fall. So it's beautiful now, but it's going to disappear. That freaks people out. The disciples are like, wait, what? God's house is going to fall? What's going to happen to God? What's going to happen to us? This is referred to as the little apocalypse. Now, when we hear the word apocalypse, everyone's like, whoa, that's the end of time, scary, scary. Actually, the word apocalypse means big change. Okay? So, not every time you hear the word apocalypse does it mean the end of everything. This message calls for us to hurry up and wait. How many of you hate that saying? Let's hurry up and wait. Clearly, I don't like to wait. And the question is always, well, wait how long? Hurry up for what? Why do we need to be this place at this time when it doesn't start till later? Mark says in this passage, in the same passage, that the coming of Jesus, the second coming of Jesus, is going to happen within this generation. Not 2 verses later, he says, well, we don't know when. Jesus doesn't know when. Only the Father knows when. So the definition of generation is about the span of 10 to 15 years. And clearly, it's been longer than a generation. But we need to be ready, and we need to be prepared. During this time of year, we're preparing for Christmas. We're doing shopping, getting gifts, we're having parties and food, caroling, and so much more. Oftentimes, we forget about the season of Advent. That lovely saying that we all say to each other, but we forget to actually do. Jesus is the reason for the season. I know we've all heard it. Do we actually follow it? Are you ready? Are you going to answer that call when that time comes that Jesus is here? So Advent, a lot of people think that Advent is a singular process. It's actually 2. Advent is not only the birth of Jesus and preparing the way for Jesus. It's also preparing the way for Jesus to come again. That's why we have it every year. People don't often know that or remember that. So, when thinking of being prepared, another story in the Bible comes up in my head. One of my favorite stories, one of my favorite skits that I performed when I was in high school. And this comes from the book of Samuel. This is the story of Samuel, Eli, and God. Now, I'm not going to read it all to you. I'm just going to kind of paraphrase it so you guys kind of get an idea of what I'm thinking and where I'm going. So in this message, there's a house of Eli, and Eli has a servant named Samuel. And Samuel wants to be the best servant that he can be. Always be ready, always be eager and there whenever Samuel calls. So one night Samuel is sleeping and he hears, Samuel. He gets up, runs as fast as he can over to Eli and says, Here I am, Master, I'm here, I'm your servant. What can I do? Eli goes, I didn't call for you. Go back to bed. So he goes back to bed. The next night comes around and the same thing happens again. Samuel. Eager again, he gets up and he goes over to Eli. Here I am, Master. I am your servant. What can I do for you? Again, I didn't call for you. Go back to bed. Yet a third night comes around. And Samuel, here's his name again, Samuel, runs over and says, Here I am, what can I do? At this point, Eli realizes, this is the Lord calling him. And he tells Samuel, go back to bed, and when you hear your name again, I want you to respond, Here I am, Lord, I am your servant. So the following night happens, and the Lord calls out again, Samuel. Samuel was a bit afraid, so he didn't answer. So again, the Lord says, Samuel. Still a bit hesitant, he didn't answer. The third time, Samuel. And Samuel says, Here I am, Lord. I am ready. I am your servant. Our choices matter. The things we do in life matter. Samuel was scared. He didn't have to answer God's call, but he chose to. In school, I would be the one, who procrastinated. I liked the control. I liked being able to get my work done on time, but I will wait until the very last second to get it done. I don't know, maybe I just like the thrill of the stress and pressure of getting it all done in one sitting, rather than having it all planned and laid out for me. I just liked that control. We all like control, don't we? We think we have control over our lives, but God reminds us so many times, time and time again in the Bible, that He has a plan for us, that He has control, and He knows what's going to happen. He tells us over and over that we have free will to think we have control, to plan our lives the way we want to, but in the end, His own plan will prevail. For example, let's look at 2020. How many of us had so many plans this year? We planned and planned and planned, and then we had everything just canceled. Then we thought we had our normal back almost. Planned and planned again, just to have everything canceled again. We control our lives, but so much of our lives is unexpected. Sometimes that unexpected thing that comes up is good, right? We have good surprises, good things that happen to us. But more often than not, it's not so good. God is telling us that we need to be ready now, that we need to prepare now for the coming of Jesus, that we need to have ourselves and our faith ready now. He tells us that our faith calls us to live in every moment and not be a procrastinator and catch up at the end of our days. Too often we put our faith on the back burner. And during this time of Advent is the time to remember we have to put it first. Too often we get caught up in worrying about the future, the fear of the unknown, and Jesus is simply telling us, got this? I got you. God comes to us in all situations, in all times. And he comes to us for who we are as we are. When we're so worried about the future and worried about others and worried about how we look, how we act, how we talk, and we try and change ourselves, God knows who we are. God comes to us and wants us to be that faithful person that he knows we can't be. Accepting it, that's our problem. Accepting us for who we are. So in this season of Advent, we are prayerfully waiting for our communal hope that Jesus will return. As we light these candles each week, it's going to remind us that even though there's darkness in this world right now, a lot of darkness with this pandemic, that his light is going to shine through, that we are going to push forward. My challenge for you this season is to live in the moment. Trust that God's hands are working to get us through this pandemic. Know that this Christmas season, we need to be thankful for what we have